a very special project of our FIU. Casa Cuba is bringing together scholars, artists, policymakers, business leaders, students, the community at large, to create a leading cultural center and think tank for the discussion and study of Cuban affairs and the preservation and celebration of our Cuban heritage. This will be our Cuban home away from home, a home for Cubans, but also for everyone else who is curious and passionate about Cuba and the Cuban community. Casa Cuba has attracted influential board members. We have secured a prominent site on the FIU campus for our state-of-the-art facility, and we have received significant philanthropic support towards the construction of our home, including prestigious grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Knight Foundation. Our facility will feature galleries for interactive exhibitions, classrooms where faculty will teach the more than 70 courses on Cuba currently offered at FIU, and a venue for events, artistic performances, and dynamic programming, such as the Contemporary series. Contemporary is just a taste of what you will experience at Casa Cuba. This initiative is envisioned as a series of intimate conversations featuring leading Cuban voices from the art industry, including artists, gallerists, curators, and other visionaries. The conversations are recorded and preserved for posterity as part of Casa Cuba's oral history collection, and will inspire us to reflect on the profound intersections between art and the Cuban identity and experience. We are truly privileged to be joined by Cuban artist, art consultant, and fine art appraiser Rochi Llaneza as a special guest this evening. Thank you, Rochi, for joining us today. I would also like to thank FIU alumna and independent curator Daniel Damas for moderating the series, and thank our friends at Carta, the Miami Beach Urban Studios, and our Casa Cuba team for all the hard work behind the scenes to coordinate the program. Thank you all for joining us. I hope to see you at future events, and I encourage you to get involved in the historic effort to build our Casa Cuba at FIU. There are many ways to support the project and become a founder, and we need your help to make this dream a reality. Thank you, and enjoy the conversation.
Thank you so much, Maria Carla, for that introduction. As she mentioned, I am Danielle Damas. I am a creative consultant here in Miami, and I have about 6 years of experience in the art world. I'd really love, and I'm very excited to begin our second interview with Casa Cuba after our inaugural event last month with David Castillo. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest, Rochi Llaneza, who has 18 years of experience in the contemporary art community. Rochi was born in Cuba and later immigrated to several places, most prominently the Dominican Republic, where she earned her bachelor degree in business from the Pontific Catholic University. In 1984, she moved permanently to Miami and graduated summa cum laude from Florida International University with a visual art and art history degree with academic honors. After ending her tenure of 8 years in mid-2013 as executive director at Hardcore Art Contemporary Space in the Wynwood Arts District, Rochi is now an independent art consultant, curator, and art appraiser. Rochi was involved in the creation of organizations such as Wynwood Arts District Association, Women of Wynwood and Miami Art Dealers Association, and presently she is the chair of Art Table for the Florida chapter. So Rochi, I'm super excited and thankful for the fact that you're joining us tonight. And I'm really excited to just get into talking to you today, since we have such a common interest in the art world.
Thank you.
So how are you doing with everything lately? How are you?
We're good. I mean, you know, just treading on.
Treading on. So I guess we can kind of go straight into it. I was curious to find out, how did you begin your journey to the art world. I know that in the Dominican Republic, you had already started, you know, your journey getting your bachelor's in business and becoming a visual artist. And I guess, how would you take us through your journey?
Right. I've been thinking about this. I've always known this, but I think I thought about it harder because of this interview. I think that it all sprouts from my mother and my mother's family, and she was a teacher, and but her mother and her father, my maternal grandparents, they were both, my grandmother was a seamstress and my grandfather was a tailor. But it wasn't just a seamstress and a tailor. They were actually creatives, because they would create the patterns and execute the object after designing the patterns. So that was passed down to my mother and her 3 sisters, and they were all seamstresses at an early age, even though they all went on to do different things. I mean, the 2 of them followed that, and they were in the fashion world all their lives as designers and also seamstresses. So I think that it was like an inherited unconscious pattern of thought that we all shared.
Right, like this appreciation for the aesthetic. And
Right.
I mean, I see the fashion in your...
And I continue to explore that.
Mhm.
Obviously, my mom trained me also in all, you know, sewing, embroidery, etc. And I also went to, early on when we got to the Dominican Republic, I went to a school that was run by nuns. And I loved staying after school, and they would train me in embroidery and everything handmade, which is really my most, that's what I love the most.
So you enjoy things that you can make with your hands.
Right, we're all makers in this family. We all are makers. I have a niece that told me once, many years ago, she was, I don't know, 10. She said, why do you have to make everything? Just buy things, you know? So I said, it's not the way it goes here.
Well, I understand that too. I know I grew up, my grandmother was a seamstress as well. And it was always, you know, this appreciation for making something from scratch, making something unique and something that you can't just buy in a store. So that's definitely...
You can't just, well, I can say that it's that I can't just accept something the way it is. Like, I have to change it somehow.
Right.
Which, you know, that bleeds into everything, into cooking or anything that you make. And then I became, my passion was everything that was domestic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and then my mom once bought me a color by number box of, I was like 7, and that was it. I was also in school, they had me make a map with gesso of the Dominican Republic, and that was a thrill. You know, toys that we would make by hand with the kids in the barrio. So all those things, I think that led up to my passion and my desire to continue the path of anything that was made by hand.
And you still practice?
I do, even though because of the trajectory my life took, from being an artist and being in school to being offered a job to run a gallery. Then running a gallery was just so overwhelming, and I felt that was also a calling, because I was able to help so many artists, so many local artists. So, you know, and I had another child, blah, blah, blah. So your life just goes in another direction, but it's always there. It's always there. It's just applied to a different genre.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did you find yourself, you know, moving from the visual arts into a gallery scenario? I mean, I totally understand in terms of like the overwhelming feeling of working for a gallery, but how did you transition from that? Was it to connect with artists? I know that you mentioned helping them was a major thing that you took away from it, but did you always expect to do that?
No. No, I was asked to show at a gallery that was going to open in Wynwood in 2004, 2005. And from there, I got offered a job because I was helping them with translations and stuff. And I got offered the job and I took it. I thought it was a great opportunity. And, you know, I mixed both things, my business degree with my fine arts degree. So it was the perfect soup,
Yeah,
I would say. And that's how I transitioned into that world. It was in the beginning of Wynwood. So it was a very interesting stage of that, you know, in Miami for the art world. And I thought it was, I didn't realize, I don't think any of us realized what was going on while it was going on until it happened. So being there at that time and being able to expose and give, like I said, opportunities to so many local artists that I knew could be at that level. It was actually a blessing.
and I mean, you're saying you guys were there in 2004, so that really is the beginning of Wynwood.
Well, back then there was, you know, it was Bernice was there. She had recently gone there. Bernice, you know, Dorsch. So I don't want to leave anybody out, but it was a group of us, Dot 50. And yeah, it was truly the beginning of everything. And everybody was pushing to, and then obviously Art Basel was the big trigger, you know, and not just Art Basel, but with Art Basel came all the art fairs, Scope and all the other art fairs, and that interesting, you know, period.
Right. And
so that's how that whole stage of my life happened.
mm-hmm. And obviously, you know, Miami has transformed in so many ways since the beginning of that time. And I guess I'm curious to know what how your interests have evolved over the years, at least like in art, or what you've seen change. How do you see your own interests evolving?
So after that whole, you know, great time we had there in Wynwood, where everybody was, and actually Wynwood was more important outside the United States than, I mean, even Miami. Everybody wanted to come to Wynwood because we would do art fairs all over the world, and that's what was happening. It was the place for art. So that you know, that took years, and then obviously the recession came, and we overcame that, and my interests turned to helping the cultural scene in Miami the best I could. And that's why I became so involved in all these organizations. and the promotion of local artists. Obviously, everything exploded, and then Wynwood imploded, and that's when I became independent. So, I mean, when it gentrified, so everybody, you know, was scattered everywhere and doing different things. And that's when I went into doing curatorial projects independently and art consulting. That was 2013.
Was it difficult to just make that kind of shift?
No, I mean, no, I follow my intuition, and you know, and I truly believe in my gut that things happen for a reason, and you just evolve as a human being. I don't fight it. If that's where it's going, then you try to be the best you can at what you have to do at that time. So you know, you put your whole heart into it, and you just move forward. Always the underlying idea or mission, it was to bring light to the Miami art community. And it still is.
And I mean, since you've seen all of these changes throughout the years, how do you see, maybe in this kind of uncertain time, right, with COVID and the pandemic and all kinds of issues happening right now, how do you see the importance of witnessing or collecting art in a time like this?
I've seen artists change completely. Like they've been so creative. I've been sitting on all these calls, and people, they're just doing so many things. But I will say that being here during the recession, and being in Wynwood during the 2008 recession, I remember in 2007, when we would go to an art fair, we would sell the art fair booth within, sometimes it was minutes. And then in 2008, nothing was happening. And Art Basel contracted from being 22 fairs to being, I don't know, 5. And that too changed. We had to change the strategy. Everybody had to change their plans. We continued going to art fairs because what we did was we thought that the art fair would be a networking event more than, we didn't go with the idea that we were going to be selling anything, because we knew we weren't. Even though, you know, we would sell a piece here and there, but not as we did before the recession. So you just adapt, and I'm sure we're going to adapt. We're going to come out transformed, because that's what happened after the recession. We were better after the recession. So if I look at it historically and with a positive outlook, which I always have, I'm sure it's going to be better. And everybody, yeah, and creatives always come out better from tragedy, from stress, from financial situations, and we just adjust.
I mean, I do agree we have to adjust. I guess I'm curious, thinking back to the recession, there were adjustments you got, like, you know, you remembered having to make changes that had to be made. So maybe not 22 fairs, but 5 fairs were happening. What do you feel were like the most effective changes that you saw? Was it like the community working together? Because personally, I feel the way that the creatives or how we will be adjusting as a society in the art world now would be from collaborating and changing in that sense, like coming together. But I'm interested to know if that's what happened before or if that was something that was
No, well, I can speak to what happened during that recession, that time of the recession. Things changed in a way that, for example, we knew that in the market we were in, we weren't going to be able to sell a $15,000 or a $20,000 piece because that was not that's not where the market was going. But if we would show, you know, a work from 1,000 to 5,000, that was like the sweet spot. So that's what we did. And artists began to produce work that adjusted to but artists are never going to stop producing work.
right.
It is a compulsion. It's never going to stop. And like I said, they will adjust and they will change strategy. They will change material. I don't know, but it's going to be okay. I do think that because I've seen, I've talked to friends that are working on projects that are, for example, they're thinking of doing more structural work, like sculptural work or installations for outside, and having curatorial projects that have to do with you know, landscaping and parks, etc., where people can be outside and look at the work. Drive-bys. I've heard it all, and just things that weren't happening before.
I think it's
begin to happen.
right. I think it's interesting. Well, like you said, creatives will never stop creating.
Oh.
And I think it's interesting that I've heard that as well. I've heard a lot of artists that are looking to go outside. They're looking to produce work that could be enjoyed outside. And it's a reflection of what's been going on, where we're yearning to go outside, you know, take a walk, meditate, be present. And it's kind of a reminder. And I always believe that creatives are necessary in like the larger social adjustments that happen in the world. So it's like creatives are able to make sense of things for people that for systems that no longer work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They transform what was there, and they make it contemporary, if we want to use the word, the title of this,
Yeah.
of this talk. And contemporary, what I mean by that is that they will transform even ideas. The idea of a closed-in museum will change. You know, 4 walls, the white cube, all that has changed. We've been doing all these fairs that are virtual. We've been having gallery shows of virtual. And I think that as things begin to change a little bit more, other creative outlets will happen, for sure. I know that for sure, because I know that people are planning. And it'll happen. I'm very, I think that I'm excited. I'm excited to see what comes out of this.
I'm excited too. I really do believe that that artists and creatives and the art world will bounce back. It's just it's necessary. Although, you know.
Yeah, I know, but I know people are struggling, and there's a lot of I feel very bad for a lot of artists that are really having a hard time. But as as I said before, I have a friend, I can't disclose who she is, but she has a great idea that is a totally new concept on how to show and sell art. And when it comes out, it's going to be very exciting. I can't talk about it, but that's just one of many ideas that have come out of the pandemic. And I know that more is going to happen. And it's going to change everything.
Right.
Better.
Do you have any curatorial projects that you'd like to share, or?
I'm working on I'm working on something, and but I'm not ready to talk about it yet because it's actually with this artist that I mentioned. But now I'm totally immersed in my art appraising. When I'm starting with the art appraising business, so that's what I'm doing right now.
So what led you into art appraising?
I had been appraising art for people for free, like verbal appraisals. People would call me and they would ask me to do, how much is this worth? I need it for what, this or that, the other. And I would be doing it, I was doing it for free. So after my mom passed away last year, I decided to take some time off for myself, and I started the courses that give you accreditation to do appraisals for the IRS, insurance companies, attorneys, blah blah blah. So it's so I went, got that done, and I just recently finished, and I'm ready to start that new project.
That new project. I mean, how do you see the difference since like the accreditation versus like doing it before?
Well, you have to take a course. It's a course on appraising, and then you have to also take an aesthetic course in order to get all the credentials. And so yeah, you learn it. If your background, it's not antiques, or if your background is in art, so then you learn how to appraise art. You have to stay current with all your credentials, and that's how you are able to work for, like I said, the IRS or attorneys and insurance companies. You can't do it unless you have those credentials. You have to belong to an association of art appraisals, and they are the ones that give you the credentials.
Okay, so it's just more of a legitimized, like, well.
Yes, you have to be credited. Yeah.
Okay.
Accreditation, yes.
Okay. And I guess, like, would you consider that your next step, or is there another
Okay, I'm exile. I am a Cuban exile. I have no idea where I'm gonna be, but what I can tell you, and who would have told us we were gonna be here, right?
All right.
So my next step is just following my intuition and just diving into what life throws at me. But I always trust that what happens is for the best, and I just take it on. So I would hate to say that, I'm going to do this and that. It's such a, I don't even know how to describe this year and what's coming up.
Right.
We don't know when the vaccine is gonna, we don't know, it's an election year, but there's so many question marks that I wouldn't dare tell you this is what's next. I have a lot of things that I'm working on, but there's no way. There's no way.
Right. It's one step at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. I definitely am living by that.
We all are. We all
Yeah.
are. Even though we can go to the supermarket.
Right.
You know?
Oh,
Yeah. No.
yeah. Well, Rochi, I met you through Art Table, and I'd really like for anyone that's joining that doesn't know what Art Table's about, I'd really love for them to get a better understanding of that. And then, I mean, what, you know, I know you like to help artists and you wanted to bring people together. So I understand like why you would be attracted to an organization like it. But I guess if you want to talk about the organization and what fuels that passion as well, I'd love for you to.
I knew of Art Table because I hosted an event for them at the gallery I was running. Can't remember the year, 2010 maybe, or yeah. And then after, you know, gentrification of when the gallery closed, I was approached by Alette Simmons Jimenez. She was the chair for the Florida chapter at the time. And because I had a little more flexibility in my schedule, I decided to join. She had me sign up, and immediately I was asked to be in the executive committee. So I became a member and a member of the executive committee immediately. Art Table started in 1980, and the founders were Joyce Pomeroy and Lila Harnett. And it started in New York. At the time, Lila Harnett was a journalist, and it's interesting because she was a journalist in the 70s, and she would sign her name L.A., I think, Harnett, not disclosing that she was a woman, to not disclose that she was a woman because those were the times. Mm-hmm. And then meeting all these interesting, intelligent women in the visual arts, they decided to meet for lunch and network that way. They were not able to network like men. They would go to bars and exchange business cards. So they would do it over lunch, and then they were doing it over dinner in people's homes, and that hence Art Table. It began to, as a group of women that needed to support each other and network in the visual arts. Women that were conservators and administrators, educators. That's how it all started. And we're celebrating our 40th year. It's a national organization, and Miami's a thriving chapter. And we have, one of the things that I think that's really interesting, they have a fellowship. National has a fellowship, and they support emerging professional women in the visual arts that are from minorities, and they give them internships. I think it's 33% Black, Afro-American, 30% Latinas, and like the rest is Asian and mixed. And they position them in museums and other institutions. And from there, it's a springboard to a job. And to insert them, so that these places become more diverse. So that's a great program that they have. We have, in Miami, we have a mentee program as well that was started when I started. And because I decided that, we want to I didn't even know New York had that fellowship, but I thought it would be interesting because I see all these young girls, you know, coming out of university and not knowing or not knowing the ropes, like like the actual hands-on what happens at a gallery or you know, if their interest is a museum, we place them with with one of our members, heads of museums, educators, etc. And that worked out great. We've done it for 5 years, 4 years, 5 years. This year we're working on it. You know, everything has been delayed because of that. But if anybody has an interest, you know, we can send them the information, and if they want to become members, you have to have experience in the visual arts, have at least 5 years involvement somehow, and happy to have everybody from Florida.
I mean, I think it's a really wonderful program, especially how you talk about the mentorship for young women, because I do agree, like there maybe even for most visual artists or visual arts students, men and women, they don't necessarily teach you how the actual business in art world function. So it's really a beautiful organization that's very helpful to women, and especially women that are looking to be, you know, helping each other.
Right. Well, it's not, well, that one of the most interesting programs we've had happened when you became a member this summer, and we contacted all our members because we really wanted to know how they were doing individually. And this idea came from our board member in New York. She's from Miami, Rusty Levinson. And so we contacted every member, we reached out to them, we asked them how they were doing and how they were fending this pandemic. And, you know, and so then we had a big Zoom call, and everybody was able to express. We saw each other's faces, and I think that was more than enough. Just seeing us all there was pretty amazing.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask anyone if they'd like to ask Rochi any questions. I know we do have a comment from Becky Franco for you, Rochi. I know, Rochi, when I first moved from New York 8 years ago, it's wonderful to hear how her art career started and its twists and turns. So proud of how she has independently created her niche in the Miami art scene. That's a very sweet comment.
Thank you, Becky. Becky was also a member of our table.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yes, and she doesn't live in Miami. I think she lives in Fort Lauderdale, or it's Hollywood. So, but she would come to our events, and she still does. So, very happy to hear from her.
I have another question from the audience. What is your advice for students with the desire to work with art and for recent grads?
Would that be in the art field as an artist, or administrative, or are they specific?
They didn't specify, but let's say an artist.
Just I always tell artists that if they stick to it long enough, they will be fine. If you stick to your craft and you trust yourself creatively, eventually you will get to where you want to get. And a gallery or an art dealer, somebody will see you, a museum, but you have to stick to it long enough so that people know you are committed, and that's where your value is. That your value is your consistent presence in your studio and in your art. And that's how I think it works. That's my view on that.
Yeah, I would even add to that, saying to, specifying on something you really said, trusting yourself and trusting your artwork. I think staying true to what you believe and your process and what you want to create is also important, and not letting too many outside influences.
Right. Well, that's the thing that you can't do. Like, you cannot start making art that suits somebody else. It has to be your own thing and trust it.
Okay, we have one more question from Rustin Levinson. If anyone, oh well, it's not a question, but if anyone would like to join our table, she can help them. And I think,
yeah, she will speed you through.
Yeah. We can provide the email to anyone who's interested.
Yes, yes. The other thing I wanted to add to, I know if that person that asked, if it has to do with, being positioned in museum, or the artist that was interested in working in just following that path, I know it's not a good time, but I do think that other things will open up. Alternative jobs that are not directly, there's not the traditional art job. I think that because I know for sure, one thing that I wanted to touch on, and this is why I'm saying this, I spoke with Omar Lopez-Chahut this morning, because I wanted to bring some insight on what's going on with Untitled, which is one of the fairs that we have down here during Art Basel, and Miami Art Week, let's call it. And he was saying that they are working on a hybrid VR and viewing rooms for Miami Art Week, and they're not gonna be in person. It's still gonna be virtual, and they actually doubled the amount of galleries they had for the summer fair. So it's looking, I think that's a positive thing. And he was also saying that, and I could quote him on this, he's working on a curatorial project in like him as a curator, and it's going to be a pop-up during that art week also in Miami. So like I said, a lot of things are happening that are not the traditional, not what we were used to. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot happening that week, even though Basel is not going to be here. We're still going to have some kind of Miami Art Week during that Basel week for us.
I would also say that since it's not traditional, it is a great time to just really go after any idea you've been thinking about. Like, if there's a project you thought, oh, maybe this person wouldn't be interested, or maybe this isn't really pertinent to what people have been doing lately, I think it's a really good time to just work out those projects, because people are interested in something new and exciting and different, and anything that will really, talk to people that are struggling right now. Right. And it's going to be different than anything that has been in the past, but it's still a good time to create. It's always a good time to create.
And let me just say that even though I know there's a lot of people struggling in the art world, there's also been a huge interest in people buying art because they are in their homes now more. So, for example, I have 2 clients, and they are very young, friends of my kids, and because they want to invest, start putting money in art because they're home and they're working from home, and they want to see their space look, they want to be looking at something that's interesting to them. So they're interested in learning, they're interested in buying, and just like them, I'm sure, and I know from other friends, you know, they've been doing pretty well as well. So it's not all gloomy.
Right, exactly. Well, if anyone has any remaining questions, I'm going to invite everyone to unmute themselves and give a last hello or goodbye to Rochi and a round of applause because she's been such a wonderful guest today.
Thank you.
Please stay tuned next week as we interview our 3rd guest, Renee Morales, the Chief Curator of the Perez Art Museum, Miami. It will be Tuesday at the same time, 5:30, and we'll be posting the RSVP link at the end of this interview. But in any case, I'd love for everyone to say hello or give a shout out, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Rochi, Anakin, awesome presentation, loved it.
Very good, very good.
Good work, Mom.
Great job, Rochi.
Hi, Rochi.
Hi, Rochi.
I'm proud of you, prima.
Yeah,
Rochi, thanks for being so optimistic.
Good job, Danielle.
Thank you, Rochi.
Miss, thank you, Rochi.
Thank you all.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
women.
Thank you all for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mike, put on your lipstick.
Gracias, tía Rochi.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Good job,
Bye,
Danielle.
Rochi.
Bye, Marisa.